So I don't need to ask Mathwiz how she feels about this reading, because, you know, there's a little show we started back in October called Ojimajo Doremi Sharp, and about a third of it that Mathwiz has watched was in like the last couple weeks, as opposed to the other 2/3, which was in the last like 10 or like over half a year. So
yeah, if anybody would like to
this is my
don the Mathwiz mask and be a voice double for me and join in for the last episode, feel free. My DMs are open, or you can leave a comment. You know, anybody wants to tag out.
Tag out. Okay. Hello, this is your host, Craftsdwarf. Welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. This is my co-host, Procrastination Mathwiz, the alternate ego to regular Mathwiz. Say hello, Mathwiz.
To really embody the role I'm taking right now, I'm eating pineapple on pizza. So I am
the heel, right?
The Mathwiz heel turn is real.
I'm actually curious because like you weren't a huge fan of Fairy Tail. It's the lowest rated thing you've given on the Nen Show yet, and yet like you didn't have a problem reading Fairy Tail, like actually getting through it, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious as to how you'll feel by the end of it. But so anyway, I want to start off kind of both bringing up the Patreon and answering a question. Filthy asks, like, kind of is wondering why, like, oh, do we say what we're reading next? You know, so maybe people could get a head start. No. Part of the reason is so that, because, like, I literally just changed my mind about what I want to do for the 80s block. So, like, you know, we change our minds, and, like, but we've had some of these ideas in mind for, like, we were planning to do Kinnikuman and Ashita no Joe for literal years. But, you know, so we just keep it until, like, we're about to read them, basically. And the other part is what we're reading next. So the patron poll for the patrons is
Do we need a drum roll? Do we need a...
I mean, they know. It was Gintama.
The patrons
Gintama
might
won.
know, but the audience did.
That's true. So yeah, Gintama won. So we have this episode, and then next, the last episode of Kinnikuman, which is next time, and then we'll be starting Gintama, which I do have an arc listing because I have fans on my Discord server who like Gintama, and they'd already discussed it, and I've looked at it, and I don't know exactly how long it'll be because like there's like 2 episodes in particular that maybe could be combined. It's like currently I think it's at 15 episodes, so it's going to be pretty long, but it might be like 13 it depends on how much we talk about it, you know, because obviously with Kinnikuman we're able to read 100 chapter stretches, and well, I guess you'll see how long this episode is because this one was a pretty long stretch of reading with 2 arcs, and yeah, we'll see how much we have to talk about it. But so yeah, mostly it's that, like, so yeah, we do generally know what we're discussing next, but, you know, again, in case we change our minds or other things, then we just kind of keep it close until about when we get to that point. So, you know, apologies for the inconvenience, but I am still glad when people read along. So yeah, that's good. So, you know, we had one thing I liked about this comment section is there's just a lot of people talking and lots of long posts with their own thoughts on it, and it's like, because I actually checked the Anime Hero, I didn't watch any of their videos, but I did see that, like, you know, the channel only has 17,000 subs, which is a fair amount, but it's also not, like, he's not a big YouTuber, you know, like, even I have, you know, we both have more subs than him, but I still wouldn't consider us, like, big, you know, like, I wouldn't say you're a big YouTuber until you've hit, like, 100K. But not, you know, and so, like, you know, he's been doing this discussion on, like, yeah, he's got, like, I checked, he had, like, over 30 Kinnikuman videos. But generally, like, yeah, it doesn't seem like a series that gets a huge amount of discussion, you know, and not that Nen Show's a big podcast, but I don't know, it's nice to see, and you have people giving their thoughts and sometimes analysis and stuff, and it's cool. I liked reading the comments. But anyway, so Pablo, or Vox Story, he had some analysis and stuff, but mostly I want to bring up that apparently Ramen Man and Brocken Jr. is a popular yaoi ship, which I was like, oh, yeah. And also, this is one thing he mentioned that we now know from the reading is that Brocken Jr. actually has the most female fans of all the Kinnikuman characters. So, you know, there were women and girls reading this series, and they liked Brocken Jr. apparently, and also shipped him with Ramen Man.
Interesting.
So, you know,
I mean, I'm certainly not one to judge.
Yeah.
Me over here as if any Kaluto
characters
has like no dialogue, nothing in Hunter x Hunter. And I'm like, this character right here. So I mean, like, yeah, I definitely get it.
They speak to me, right? Yeah. So yeah, that was definitely like, because like I mean, I kind of talked about this in with Ashita no Joe, and now that apparently like Kinnikuman wasn't that much later. So yeah, Ashita no Joe probably had yaoi shippers too. Neat. Fujoshi have always been strong.
It's almost like gay people have been around for a while.
Gasp. So this one was, I guess irrelevant to Kinnikuman though, but there was a conversation started by, Dikembe Venga, who, about the Baki manga, and I just wanted, I just thought it was like, oh yeah, look, my thoughts, I was right to not skip this because there is actually important context in the parts that aren't translated yet. So that's good to know. And I guess this one is like, because it's like I do like having all these long comments to read, but I just generally don't have anything to respond to, because the last one I have to respond to is Haruzenda is asking, basically they were curious as to whether or not like there were other series in Jump that had reader submitted stuff before Kinnikuman, because like, and I do think that's one interesting about the Kinnikuman, like is how he'll use these fan submitted characters, or they, because it's Yudetamago, their duo. But they use these fan-submitted characters, and they'll become, like, major... Like Robin Mask was fan-submitted. Warsman, Neptune Man was combined from, like, 2 fan-submitted characters. And I just, like... And they'll have these major roles and become recurring characters, and have now become... Some of them have, I'm sure, become iconic. And just because some kid, was like, I'm going to make a character, and, they sent it in, and that's pretty interesting for such a long series. But I do... Yeah, I guess I'm bringing this question up because I do wonder if it happened before Kinnikuman, especially on a major sense, because the only other series I can think of personally is Mitama Security, which ended recently, but it did have it's ghosts and fan submitted ghosts, and it was fun and but anyway, that's the only other one I can think of off the top of my head. But I just thought it was interesting. But that does do it for comments. But wait, the audience wonders, doesn't Mathwiz have comments to? No, she doesn't.
Yeah, admittedly, that's because it's definitely me getting down to the wire with like getting the reading done last minute.
She's I've always true to her character as procrastination Mathwiz.
I've always been bad at that, but when it's like a story that I'm at this point forcing myself through, it's a lot harder even when I set aside the time to get through it in a timely manner. And I sincerely apologized for being a bad co-host. Hey, but at least I'm not phoning it in and only pretending to read the chapters.
Yes, Mathwiz hasn't gone that far down to the dark side yet.
Yes.
Anyway, starting off with the Golden Mask arc.
I will.
So this one is.
I will say that this reading was interesting in that, like, the Golden Mask arc, I wasn't a big fan of, but when it got into like the tag arc. After a certain point, I was like, okay, I can kind of vibe with this. Like, there are some moments are...
Okay, that's a relief, because, see, Golden Mask, because I think it was said that, like, the next 2 arcs are generally, like, the most well-liked and considered the best in the original run, and, with the Golden Mask apparently being the most, like, famous is how, Box Story described it. I don't know if that's, like, I'm assuming that's in Japan. With me, like, Golden Mask, I also, I just ended up kind of thinking of it as sort of forgettable, which was weird. Like, when I finished, like, I was thinking about it just now, I was thinking about my arc ranking, which is, Mathis is like, oh no, the arc ranking. like, we can't see each other, but I could imagine her face when I've said arc ranking. Like, oh no. But anyway, yeah, so I, like, and maybe discussing it will change my mind on it a bit, but yeah, the Dream Tag I was legitimately enjoying, and it had some good stuff in it that I really liked, so I'm glad that you at least you had a little bit more like even if it was just one twitch in your slowly dying heart. No, that's because your soul is leaving your body thanks to the rest of Kinnikuman. But no, that's good. But yeah, the arc start. See, and one thing I was wondering about, I maybe we didn't talk about before because last time there was more of the not fighting. But this stretch of chapters, which was 2 arcs, there's maybe like 5 chapters. There isn't a lot of time in between like fighting. Like I'm scrolling through and it's literally like the 3rd or 4th chapter of the arc. Kinnikuman starts his first battle against Negator. And like with Bleach, you got a little tired of that series at times and ultimately weren't too keen on it when you first finished it because it's a lot of fighting. But Kinnikuman is like, at this point, it's all fighting.
Yeah, like I feel like at least with Bleach, I remember there being like some downtime in between arcs. Even if like, obviously the first arc that comes to my mind is the Arankar saga, which is like a big 300, maybe not 300. I forget the chapter. Like
no,
exactly.
it is,
but it was like a lot, and it's like fight, a little bit of a fight. Yeah.
Yeah, but even then, like, it started off, like, there was Okiura and Yami's incursion, but then, like, there was training with Ichigo. Like, there was quite a bit of stuff that happened before, and very little of it fighting before they actually got into Hekomundo.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until they actually got into, like, the base of the enemy, that's when it started becoming a lot of fights.
Yeah,
and
it's like once
there were breathers in between
once
some
the
of that
arc
fighting.
would pick up, there would be fighting, but the arc would just happen to be really long, so there would mean there's a lot of fights. But yeah, like with Kinnikuman, it's often we did the thing, the day is saved. Hey, here's the next threat, and we're going again.
Exactly, like it immediate, like the it's like last Golden Mask chapter, and then first Dream Tag Tournament chapter, and something is immediately happening. Like there isn't breathing room; it just goes right into it. So like if that bothered you with Bleach, then of course it's gonna bother you even more with Kinnikuman because it's just like. It's just more fighting where it's like, even if the fights, I don't know, because I think I like the, some of the fight, like a lot of fights in Bleach, and where Kinnikuman, I definitely, I enjoy most of them, and I, they're both good, though at this point I definitely like Bleach notably more, but like, even if they were all like really amazing fights, like would you still like that? I have no idea, so, because, we weren't super into, like, with the level that we were into Bleach was even more than, Kinnikuman, but we were still missing a lot of context with Bleach. But anyway, I'm off topic. Yeah, words.
No, I think it is also worth noting, though, like with Bleach, I probably will gain a better appreciation for Kinnikuman in hindsight when I'm not actively reading it, because I still haven't revisited Bleach in full, so maybe, I can't say whether, like, my opinion changed with Bleach like over time, so that's still kind of up in the air. I guess as far as like
even with Bleach, you had like things that you could like Gin, where you could invest yourself in this, where like you don't have a Kinnikuman aesthetic character unless it's Negator. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, so I feel like I my opinion will soften on Kinnikuman with time. And definitely, like, there are moments in it that are interesting for, like, historical shonen manga influence, that kind of context.
Yeah. Well, like, because, like, this arc didn't, or these two arcs didn't have, like, a lot of, like, that, like, last time where I'm like, I've heard this fight's kind of like Luffy versus Katakuri, and I can kind of see it. Or with, Buffalo Man, where it's like, this fight reminds me quite a little bit of Yusuke versus Toguro. Where this one didn't have anything like that, probably because it mostly, especially the Dream Tag, focused on, like, the 2 versus 2, which doesn't have to happen as much, which I guess also gave it a unique spin, but, or at least an uncommon one.
Like, thematically, I can't think of another word, but, like, in that sense, maybe not, but there are definitely, like, little moments that I'm like, I remember a future manga doing something similar to this. Like, there was obviously...
That happened quite a bit.
Someone had, like, tweeted to me the image of, like, in Naruto, when Killer Bee and the Raikage do, like, the double lariat, and it's like, hey, it's like the cross bomber, or... there's that one fight.
And there's one of those in here, right? Yeah.
They fight. What's the guy? The sand guy, and he's got the object that controls all of his body parts.
Yes.
And like, hey, Kurama has a fight like that in Yu Yu Hakusho. So they're just little things like that were interesting.
Well, the ones that for me, there's there's the Golden Mask flashback where we see Golden Mask and Silver Mask are kind of like. They're fine, but then some kid asks them, like, okay, but which of you is stronger? Well, my first thought was Little Garden, when you have Dory and Brogy, who get these big, Sea King catches, and then some kid is like, okay, which one is bigger? And it starts this long-lasting feud. And then there was one, the Perfect Choujin, where it's like, yeah, they have a bunch of scars on their front, but they have no scars of retreat on their back. And I'm like, Whitebeard! Just like all these little things that I'm just like, I've seen that before. And, maybe it's a point of influence or cryptomnesia or just like, well, especially like I know one trope that is definitely older is the dying standing thing, which One Piece and I think Warsman had that in one of the fights in the last arc. But I think that's I forget if it's historical or mythological or maybe a mythicized history. But that's a trope that exists before these series. But there's definitely like little things where I'm like, hey, I recognize I've seen that before, but retroactively. So and yeah, maybe it's a point of influence. Maybe it's just again, both of them referring back to something older that we're not familiar with. But there was definitely a lot of moments like that, and I felt that more from this stretch than I did the earlier stuff.
Yeah, also with the gold and silver mask thing, I know that's definitely like a reference to like an old Japanese fable where it's I forget exactly how it goes, but it was when they had the point where the character
I thought it was King. If I remember
about...
correctly, it's like the myth of King Arthur. And his sort of rise to become king. Like that's something that happens to him where he drops something and like the fairy asks.
Okay, then maybe that's it. Maybe. I don't know.
Because I think we also discussed this on Ojimajo Doremi because there was also that came up in there.
There was a reference in Doremi and I was like, hey, I had also just seen this in K-On! And like here it was again in Kinnikuman, which I just thought was neat.
Right. So, yeah, and there's a lot of, like, I guess that's another point to consider because, like, through the 90s and especially, like, after World War II, there probably would have been a lot of, like westernization and Western, things coming into contact with Japan for the first time. Another example that I've seen a lot in Japanese stuff is and it comes up in Kinnikuman, is that riddle, what has 2 legs in the, or 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at day and 3 legs at night, and which I think is like the Sphinx riddle or something like that, or maybe it's I'm pretty sure it's older than many civilizations. But it's like, and I remember seeing that on TV in some anime stuff as a kid, I think on this same, maybe it was from Ultimate Muscle, I don't know, probably not. But that came up here, and it's just all these things, it's, and that one in particular you don't see nowadays because like everyone knows it, like what has 4 and it's like, man, like you just say it, like we know it well enough that we can just answer it immediately, so it's not as interesting. But in older stuff, I'll see it occasionally like this. So and I guess that's all, just what happens when you go back to these old things, is you see familiar stuff that you've already seen in other things. So yeah. But anyway, the conflict starts. It's all set up with the fake gold masks, and the bad guys just like turn into a giant gun at one point. Like things just happen. It's like, okay, yep, that's happening. You just gotta roll with it, and it's fun. Oh yeah, and so another thing we haven't even gotten into the actual discussion yet, because but one thing we brought up last time was the general power escalation and how you weren't sure about things going forward. And of course, like they start off this arc where it's like, oh yeah, the 7 Devil Choujin, yeah, they were just low rank. We're actual strong Devil Choujin. Yeah. And so that happened, but at the same time, I also didn't feel necessary by the end of it, because like Buffalo Man is still like relevant. Like none of the characters, like they mentioned, bring up more power levels, the same power levels still, and no one's gotten like stronger. And especially in the next arc, you have Kamehame from literally like the second major arc in the series from our first reading, and he's still like able to be relevant and fight with these other characters, even if he's older and he has his like weaknesses. But like, so it was funny that I saw the like, oh yeah, those guys you from before, they're not that strong, but we are. So it's fun. Yeah, I just thought it was funny that they did that, but it just didn't feel necessary because like, I feel like it's been fine so far still.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but anyway, the conflict set up, everyone has their Choujin power weakened except Kinnikuman. And yeah, then we get to the fighting, which now I must struggle to remember if I had anything to say about the individual fights.
It is kind of funny because in like certain other discussions we might have, it would be like, and then we get to the fighting and it's like a short little thing. Whereas like, well, I don't know, that's not always the case. But like with Kinnikuman, it's like, and then we get to the fighting, which is the whole arc. So whereas normally it's like, I don't know. Certain fights there is not much to say about. But when it's like, it's the whole arc, it's like, what if there is nothing to say? And that would be me. Hello.
Oh no.
Welcome to the Nen Show Podcast.
It's just a Crafts Show podcast at this point. Oh no.
I'm just here for the paycheck. What paycheck? I don't know.
I mean, we do have patrons, and more so now than ever, because I actually remembered to link it, or Mathwiz said, why isn't linked in the description? Or no, someone else said on the comments, that's right. But yeah, the Snegator, it's like, I don't know, I just had an initial reaction to like, how else do you react when it's like, the chairs are turning into alligators? Like, yep, this is happening right now.
And he does like all the reptile transformations, and then at the end he becomes a sneaker. Whoa. Right, I guess I could like at least understand maybe someone had mentioned they had mentioned it from the comparison of like, talking about Ashita Joe and Kinnikuman, and
yeah, I think you were talking about
mentioning like
Twitter,
the
right?
difference in comedy and how like they found Kinnikuman more interesting, in like some of the weird jokes it'll do, and I think I had seen other commenters mentioning that like Kinnikuman does some wild stuff, so it's kind of a fun ride from that lens. And I guess like I can understand that, even if I don't like share that opinion.
Right.
I can understand it. Like if the comedy does vibe with you, or just the sheer wackiness of it all.
Yeah, exactly. Right, because like I was even kind of talking about it last time about how like the soft power system versus hard power system, where it's like here there are some rules, but also they they definitely tend to be setting inconsistencies. Like I think Jellicock Respawn was talking about how like the flight. Like they're supposed to all be able to fly, but now I guess they can't, because it does kind of break a lot of what they try to do, or at least they can't in every it's just inconsistent. But then it also, because it is like looser, they're able to do all have a fucking dinosaur foot that transforms into like all kind of reptiles, and he's also a shoe, and like it just whatever. And so it is it just keeps being surprising. And but then sometimes they refer back to the older stuff, like the blood curse and the mirrors to go fight the ghosts that comes up again, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Or like it's transformed because it's being brought up again. So yeah. Oh yeah, and that's okay. So they talk about the translation, and because the Rikishi man becomes Wolfman, because I was making like, oh, Rikishi, because it was just funny that we read Ashita Joe, which has Rikishi, and then there was Rikishi man. So. But apparently I think the spelling is a little different, where like Rikishi has like an extra I in there, the character from Joe. And because Rikishi also means it's basically a name for a professional sumo wrestler. I don't know why it was, or no, it was changed, I think they said it in the translation, but I'm not there right now. Like I have to go back. But so it was just coincidence that they sound similar. It wasn't. Well, I was gonna make a joke where it's like, oh, so it's from Rikishi Man to Wolfman, so it's changing from being a reference to Rikishi to being a reference to the evil wolf Joe, right? No, but I don't know what. Now I don't know why it's Wolfman, because like Rikishi, that makes sense. He's a sumo wrestler looking guy. But now, okay, Wolf. I don't know. He's a sumo wrestler looking guy. Why is he called Wolf? I have no idea. Anyway, then there was the Planet Man fight. This one I kind of thought was neat, especially with the, because he turned all of his planets into other Choujin, and so you had Warsman kind of sacrificing, telling Kinnikuman to attack so that he could do more damage to Planet Man.
In this arc in particular, I wasn't really ssure what to make of like the whole sacrifice thing that kept coming up, because like none of the characters die.
Yeah,
and for some reason, like, in the tag arc, it was different, because when people would say, like, oh, we killed this character, I'm like, you're really hyping yourself up that much, huh? You really think you killed that character? But, it wasn't in, like, a, oh, this is bad kind of way. But, like, in this particular arc, it seemed like they were trying to go for some sort of, like, thing about sacrifice, and maybe it was just another one of these instances of, oh, the willingness to sacrifice yourself is more important than, like, actually... but I don't really know.
See, with the sacrifice, like, I'm trying to remember what my big takeaways from the Golden Mask arc, and I don't remember having anyway until, like, the end, like, from the general context. Like, and I do like it when, like, the smaller conflicts kind of contrast or use similar ideas to the bigger ones. Like, I think we talked about that in Bleach, where, like, in Arrancar arc, what was it? Like, characters like Ikkaku, his theme of luck, kind of, it's handled a little differently compared to Fullbring or Soul Society. The other themes it kind of contrasts with are fitting to those arcs, like with Trust and Fullbring, for example. But so with these smaller fights, like I don't remember, or I didn't notice anything in particular. But the Dream Tag arc I did think handled like even the sacrifice theme a little better, because it had this very clear core theme of friendship.
Yeah.
And I liked how both sides of it were explored. like I said, doing little. Oh, we should talk about this later, but I guess we'll talk about it now. With the friendship thing, it's like, well, how the sacrifice had into it. That is kind of like the weak side of friendship, where kind of like what Luffy and Ichigo have to go through, where it's like they want to protect their friends and they end up hurting themselves to do so, but also like their friends don't want them to hurt. So you have all these people like sacrificing themselves and getting hurt, and of course that's that's ultimately what the with friendship is like. That's the weakness that all these other characters who are opposed to it like bring up. So so there's more of a purpose to it being dealt with there. But it is, it's been a concurrent thing. But at this point, they're already friends, and they're just they are sacrificing themselves, but to win. But they all just do that. At the end of the day, everyone's fine. So, which is also true in the in the Dream Tag arc. But like at least that contrast with, or there was a way that it tied into the friendship thing, which was cool. So, oh, that's right. After Warsman got nearly killed in the Planet Man fight, they have to do this. They do this whole thing where like they have to go inside of him to fix him because he's a robot, and then, but that's, and that's basically where most of the arc happens, actually, inside Warsman.
Yeah.
And I mean, the having the tiered ring was kind of a neat way to sort of like change up the arc, I guess. So it wasn't just like, because like I even thought it was funny because there were 1 second, I have background noise. But I thought it was funny because it's like there's 6 of the new Devil Choujin in this arc, and then Akuma Shogun later, I think. Because, hold on, there's Planet Man, there's Negator, and then there was 4 fights on the 5 rings, and then the Akuma Shogun comes at the end. So it's basically the 7 Akuma Shogun arc 2, because there's 7 new Devil Choujin. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was funny that it's like, it is just kind of like, so instead of doing literally the same thing again and having all these fights to save someone, they at least like, they did it with the tiered ring and gave other characters these fights in a bigger scale sense than the last one. So it's able to structure itself differently, even though it had that similarity. But anyway, I'm trying to think of, things to say about the fighting specifically. Like there's Rava Mask versus the guy with the 2 shields for arms, Junkman. I knew there was something I had to say about the fight, but I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about the fight. I just can't remember right now. Anyway, Brocken Jr. versus the ninja at least had, it had Brocken Jr.'s remote controlled hat. So,
yeah, that was the thing.
Well, and it's like, it'll go to the real one. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Though also, this one, unlike, I don't remember any other chapters that had this, but there was just a very clear, like, Nazi symbol at one point that he still just has, and I was like, oh, okay, so let's not forget, not just that his dad's a Nazi. Nope, he's a Nazi. Okay. See, I don't really know, like, obviously I know the history with, Japan having been, allied with Nazi Germany in World War II, but I don't quite understand, like, where Germany kind of, like, Nazis, no, they're very, very harsh on, Nazi imagery and that kind of stuff. But with Japan, I'm not really sure because, like, this isn't the only series around this time that would have... So, in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 2, one of the major characters is a Nazi, and, he's allied with the protagonists, and, he was doing some shitty stuff at the start, but then, that just kind of, like, he's just another character. So, like, I don't quite, understand, like, we're obviously, like, we have a very different contexts with the what we were taught in school with the Nazis, so I don't know about Japan. And, because it's definitely kind of like, there's like, Japan was involved in its own fucked up stuff on its side of the globe first, while it was allied with the Nazis, and not that, other countries haven't done fucked up stuff, but like, I don't know, it's just a little weird.
I felt like the structure of this arc was a little, or this particular section was kind of, I don't know, it felt kind of weird because... Mm-hmm.
I think I know where you're going with this, but go ahead.
Well, like, Kinnikuman trying to, like, oh, you gotta get to the top and get this thing, but he's never able to actually move, so he's just relegated to the role of a spectator the whole time. And this seems like it would be the kind of environment where, and that's not necessary, again, like, Kinnikuman is an older manga, maybe nobody had really, like, at least as far as, like, Jump is concerned with action manga, maybe nobody had done really the whole cutting between fights happening simultaneously thing, or for whatever reason, this is also, like, a younger writer-artist duo, so maybe they didn't have, like, the experience to kind of do that, but it's very like segmented. Like here's a fight. Okay, then Kinnikuman can move up the spine, and here's another fight, and then it can go up again.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Thought you were gonna bring up with how like the other fights just like they were nothing significant was happening until Kinnikuman kind of became a spectator. Like it's just kind of like it's kind of ends up being the same like. Or kind of like I guess we had that kind of we brought up with that with Yu Hakusho where they just with the Four Beasts arc where they just like they have the one-on-one fight and the other guys just kind of spectate and then they move on to the next fight and it's just like like you think if you want to approach it like logically like maybe the character should be doing more but like I guess but what you bring up is a good point about like not only just the writer and author being younger but also like the audience and the genre of battle series not like even like you said fights cutting between each other where it's like. Yeah, One Piece will kind of do that, like, or but in these later arcs, where like Dressrosa being a great example, but where there's a lot going on. But usually, like, they do kind of like stop and show you just one fight and then move on to the next. So like, or like with Naruto, we even kind of we're talking about how like, oh, maybe there was a better way that they could. Yeah, like even when
Naruto did it in the
Naruto.
Yeah, in like
or I was gonna bring up Naruto versus Gaara and Orochimaru versus the Third Hokage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You were probably gonna say the same thing I was.
Yeah, no, that's what we were gonna say. Because we kind of noted how, because like the Third Hokage and Orochimaru happens, and then like nothing happens with that for a little while until it ends at the same time as Naruto versus Gaara, which was apparently even worse in the anime because they added a bunch of other scenes in between where they go back to it and nothing happens, but it's maybe something will happen.
Yeah,
I remember you just feeling like
nothing happens, but this time it's on screen.
Right, so it's like even that, and it would have been cool to see like more interplay between the fights, or like what if something cool like two fights ending at the same time, like where they like do an attack that they hit the bad guys into each other and beat them that way, or something. But at the same time, like even modern series have trouble with that apparently, or at least like not at least at least it doesn't happen enough. Like maybe. Some series, no, maybe it is more. Well, yeah, because
even then,
today,
I can definitely think of like other examples where there isn't much of that cutting, like cutting between things. Like even in there's like an arc in My Hero Academia where the characters, I don't even remember what it's called. Oh, it's the Shie Saikai arc I'm thinking of, where like a character will split off, and they have their fight, and then we cut back to the other cast, and they're still running to their next destination. So even when they do that sort of thing, so I guess it's not even unique to Kinnikuman that it does it this way, but it's, I don't know, like in this particular arc, some sort of variation might have been nice, but it didn't happen. Well, I think the
difference, like to compare this to the overhaul arc in MHA, where it's like with this, the fights are happening right next to each other, and the time, like we have Kinnikuman as a constant perspective of time, where with MHA, like okay, Kirishima and Fat Gum go off to do their fight, the other characters are still going, so like we could even assume that like the latter parts of Kirishima's fight and the earlier parts of another fight, or with other fights that are going on, like are happening at the exact same time.
It's just a matter of how they're structured. Like how they're shown to us.
Right, like there's no moment of stepping back from the work as it's presented and going, maybe the character, like there could be, like maybe Kinnikuman would have had more opportunities to go up, and like that's not really an aspect of the fights for more than a couple moments, because like that, and that wouldn't have been interesting, honestly, if the fight was like Kinnikuman's trying to climb up and the bad guy has to like stop him all the time and also fight his opponent, like that would just take away from the fight. So it's like, yeah, I think I get what you're saying, but like it's harder to imagine. Like, yeah, it's just a matter of that, like how it's structured. And I thought of it every once in a while, but it didn't have a problem with it at the end of the day. Even though at the end of the day, I wasn't super big on this arc in the first place. So, but no, I do think that was interesting to talk about though, because I hadn't thought about comparing it to the other series. Anyway, then we get Terry Man versus Ashura Man. Though I will say with Ashura Man, I ended up liking his stuff that comes later more.
Yeah, I was surprised with that. Like in this arc, I didn't really like him much. He was just kind of a guy.
He was another antagonist. He's not gonna stand out, right? I assume.
And initially, when he got brought back in the tag arc, I wasn't super satisfied with how it was. More so like him playing off of Terry. I didn't particularly care for how that fight like initially concluded, but then where it went afterwards kind of redeemed the character for me, and I was like, oh, there's something interesting here. Wow. Now I see, like, I almost want to say that like maybe Ashura Man is like now my new favorite character, which isn't hard to take that spot, granted.
Okay.
But like it was more so I'd have more to talk about once we get to the tag arc. Here, it's just kind of like, oh, I have 6 arms and I can do a even stronger Kaniku Buster.
Right, so you have kind of Terryman fighting like an improved version of Kinnikuman, but and then Terryman loses his arms. I hadn't thought about like that technically makes Terryman like a triple amputee because he's already lost his leg too, at least temporarily, because he gets better. Oh, that's right, he gets Buffalo Man's arms. But yeah, I think I like that one a little more than the previous two, at least. And you have Terryman being heroic again, and also, of course, building up to Buffalo Man being, more of an ally, which I think we even kind of talked about, where it's like, that makes sense. We would have expected that, because then he was popular too. And then we get another. This one I liked Geronimo versus Sunshine, because I thought it was interesting how Choujin, they're superhuman, but Geronimo's actually just a regular human, which made sense with he wasn't affected by the power draining stuff. And yeah, you already mentioned the similarity of just the having this body that can separate and fly around and stuff versus which reminded you of a Yu Yu Hakusho. Oh yeah, okay, the moment where Geronimo fucking reaches into his chest and restarts his heart after he dies is kind of like holy shit, dude. But yeah, that one was a neat one. Anyway, then they beat all the bad guys, and it turns out, nope, there's one more to go. I almost called him Akuma Choujin, Akuma Shogun, or Shogun. So anyway, the fighting, to get the gold mask starts. Buffalo Man comes back. I think we have a popularity poll soon. Yes, we do. So the most popular character in Kinnikuman is Ramen Man.
Why?
Excellent question. I mean, he's had some good stuff, but who's my favorite character actually? And I haven't thought about it because there's a couple I like I like Robin Mask and Horseman and Buffalo. I guess mostly when I say it like that, I like the antagonists. Though I do like Terryman. Kinnikuman's fine. I guess Ramen Man would be up there, but anyway, so there's one I definitely want to respond to, because there's also the comments of each of the characters reacting to their popularity. Like Kinnikuman's being like, "Hey, who's the main character of this manga? Why am I only on number 7?" But I liked Warsman because he's like, thank you. Warsman is unexpectedly shy, and my reaction was like, "Is this the invention of Gap Moe?" Because it's funny that here's this his name is Warsman. He's this robot with that had with very few human emotions, and he's built killing machine, but also he's shy. Yeah, it's kind of moe. But yeah, I don't have many other thoughts to say about the popularity poll. But I might make a joke of how oh my god, One Piece abandoned Shonen Jump's theme of the main character never being the most popular in his series. No, actually, I think Goku was pretty popular, but I do think Gohan was more popular than I don't know. I don't know. There's probably a bunch of series where the main character was the most popular, but
Bleach.
Yeah, it's funny. No, yeah, well, yeah, that's...
we were thinking... never mind. I think I heard it backwards of what you said, but...
Yeah, because it usually seems like they aren't, there's always someone else, like Naruto. I think Naruto did make first once, but, he was also in tough competition with Kakashi and Sasuke. Ichigo, he was at least in the top 2. Maybe he was once at top 1 at one point, but, he's been... I think he's been lower. He's been absolutely been lower. And then, what else? We talked about Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter, where we have Hiei and then Killua. It's just a common trend, and Kinnikuman falls into that trend. Also, one thing I want to note is that the fights are really long. They go on for 5-6 chapters, and with constant the things change, and characters will reveal new tricks and stuff. So it's it's not like it's just the same fight, but they're still pretty decent length fights.
Even in universe, the one, well, I guess that was a tag arc fight, but it was they fought for 2 hours and 10 minutes or something, and it's wow. I definitely think of it from, obviously, this doesn't be this is not realistic, but I think of wrestling matches, and there was a 60-minute one-on-one Iron Man match at one point, but once you get to that point, it's you're already kind of stretching the limit I don't know, there's not really much room to, because at that point you feel like you've exhausted all your spots and whatever sort of story beats you want to hit. So it's like, man, imagine a match like this happening in real life where it's like 2 hours and 10 minutes and everybody's like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, because like wrestling is like a narrative. I'm kind of like, even like an hour is about as long as you'll go for like a TV episode at most, like an HBO show or something like that. And there's way more than 2 characters involved. So I'm just trying to think like, wow, 1 hour with just basically 2 characters fighting in a ring. It's like, if that managed to be entertaining the whole way through, like, awesome, because that's a feat,
Actually, there's a bit of like interesting personal history I could talk. It's still a tangent, but it's something I can contribute to the conversation. I once did like a 60-minute thing in my old wrestling videos, and like I had to make a story out of that. And it wasn't perfect. Like I definitely have issues with it looking back. But it was, I definitely like know firsthand, like from the more like time constraints. Whereas like with a manga, obviously there's no. How do you quantify time with words on a page? It's not like video where you are in control of that.
Yeah. Right. Like, because, it didn't take 2 hours to read, or, I mean, it took way more than that to, like, write and draw. But like, the experience of it is not, 2 hours. And, of course, there's going to be abstraction there, like, oh, they were doing it, like, yeah, so, like, it's not literally something that is an hour long well, maybe it is in, like in the anime it was 2 hours long. I don't know how long they adapted it, or how long they took to adapt it. So
oh man, are we talking like Dragon Ball pacing where like 5 minutes equals like 30 episodes, so it's 2 hours? Oh, that must be like 300. I'm kidding. Like I said, it's a tangent. This is I don't have anything interesting to say about this manga. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. But I was just gonna, because I with the Ashram, to finish up the discussion of the Ashrama fight, it's like, Terry's not quite able to, like, at least fully defeat him, because, he hasn't surpassed Kinnikuman, where I like the bit of advice to get to Kinnikuman where it's like, well, if anyone can, Ashura man is just like, he's copying your move, so if anyone can beat your move, it's you. And sure enough, Kinnikuman finds a way to counter it. And he also inventing the Kinniku driver, so... Oh, and then there was a little moment after that I liked where Buffalo Man's trying to, like, appease, he's, Ashraman survived, and he's trying to be like, well, yeah, he still fought really hard, but Akuma Shogun doesn't care, and he just fucking, well, because he'll get power from his subordinates when they're dead, so, he just, like, kills him, and that's when Buffalo Man sort of does his, he turns back to the good guys, and I kind of saw it as, like, he liked that having a fair fight against Kinnikuman, and he kind of appealed to Shogun to be fair, and like, well, yeah, Ashraman he fought, and he didn't die, but he did a good job, but like, Shogun's a piece of shit, so and that had Buffalo Man turning against him, so
I feel like in theory I could find something interesting out of, or I could understand somebody finding something interesting out of Buffalo Man being this sort of he's on like the villain's side, but he's also not really like fully committed to them. So he's kind of like wavering back and forth, and I guess that could be potentially interesting.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, he fights Shogun to let Kinnikuman train. Oh, and we get the Gold Man and Silver Man flashback, where I already mentioned how it reminded me a little bit of Little Garden with just that one, the kid asking who is stronger. And then it turns out a fucking ramen, like there's like a ramen man ancestor who was involved in that. Because when the justice god of judgment comes down and just has like the ramen man like braid, I'm like, oh no, why? And then sure enough, Manga Man comes in, and it's like, yep, this is happening. Also, it's funny because I was actually just thinking Ramen Man until he like even when he came in, like I was just thinking of Ramen Man, and then it turned out to be Manga Man. But this time I was like, yeah, that's Ramen Man, because I didn't make the mistake I made last time, where I'm like, is this Ramen Man or is this Manga? Because I'm already supposed to know, obviously. Anyway, I'm trying to remember if I had anything else to say about the fight. One thing I noted is, so this is one thing I understand about martial arts, and because you'll notice like a lot of stories kind of push like, because people learn martial arts, but they're very much taught not to like use it unless they have to. Like there's always the thing where it's like, oh, don't go to a martial arts to learn it to beat up someone or for vengeance, that kind of thing. Like it's meant to be defensive, it's meant to be reactive rather than active. And then so you have that dichotomy with the gold and silver masks, where the silver mask, he's he's the best defender. Like Goldman was never able to beat him, but Silverman also never attacked anyone because again he's that defensive side of martial arts. And which of course is tied to the friendship and positive stuff. Where in this case you have Akane Shogun who gets the power from the Gold Mask, who wants to he wants to win, and he is more that violent side of it where he's using his martial arts to fight and conquer even. But of course, then you have it ends up as Kinnikuman's through his willpower and grit and guts ends up showing the Gold Mask that just destroying things and cutting again being a piece of shit like Shogun isn't the only way to be strong, and because again it is a martial arts series, so it's probably going to push those positive martial values, like again not the defensive piece rather than war, and so that's how you have that end up coming on top. Also, the devil showed up again. I don't like. Are we like he? First he sold Buffalo. He gave Buffalo Man power. Now he's he gave the Gold Mask freedom, so that he could beat it and power. So I'm wondering if is the devil actually going to become a thing?
Yeah.
Probably not in this arc, but maybe in one of the other series, or not in this original run. I mean, because there's one more arc left, but But yeah, I'm scrolling through to see if there's anything left else I had to say. But yeah, yep, that's it. That's about it. The Kinnikuman wins, the masks combine. Scrolling through, there was some cool moments that I hadn't quite remembered, but I still I don't know, I wasn't as into this arc. Even the fights I did I don't even with Buffalo Man versus Kinnikuman at the end of the Seven Akuma Choujin arc. Because how I've been reading these or for Nen Show stuff in general for a while is we usually try to record on Sundays. So on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I'll try to read a third of the required reading for the Nen Show. And when I did when one of those readings sort of stops right at the end of the or maybe it wasn't the Buffalo Man fight, or I don't know, but it was a fight I was into, and I just wanted to keep reading, and so I read more than I was supposed to because I wanted to finish this fight, where that didn't happen when the first set of volumes I read ended partway through Kinnikuman versus the Shogun. So, I don't know, it was fine, but I wasn't super into it, especially compared to the next arc, which is easily my favorite. Did you have any final thoughts on the Golden Mask arc?
I mean, did I even have any initial thoughts on the Golden Mask arc?
I know, but entertain me. No, it's fine.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It was an arc that I read. And this, to me, it felt like this was kind of at the low point for me with Kinnikuman. I was like, it's not going to get better. I'm condemned for 2 more episodes of the Nen Show. I got to read another 200 chapters or so of this. Thankfully, the next arc was better. There was things to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, that in your case that's definitely better, and in my case, like I said, it's easily my favorite arc so far. Because with this one, it's I'm on it as a whole, were the 20th and 21st Choujin Olympics better? I don't know, but they peaked higher. I legitimately like the Warsman fight and the Robin Mask versus Kinnikuman, where even if these fights had other stuff going on, I just wasn't super into. Well, maybe I don't know. Think about it. I don't know. Maybe I do like the Golden Mask arc more than one. I don't know. I'll think about it again for when I do the arc ranking for the last episode, which is next time. We're almost done, Mathwiz, except you have over 100 chapters to read still.
Like I said, if somebody wants to wear the Mathwiz mask, feel free.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I'm going to read them and make my own judgment, but I have heard, even from people who like it, it can be a slog, so...
Oh man, I just realized a joke. Mathwiz, more like Mask Whiz. That's what I'm going to call whoever impersonates me in the next episode.
Oh no. Alright, anyway, starting the Dream Choujin Tag arc.
Can I start off by saying that Neptune Man looks like a regular show character? I don't know why I was getting that vibe.
Which one?
Did the creator of... Not Neptune King, but Neptune Man, the one who was...
I know which... No, I haven't seen regular show.
I don't mean a specific character from regular show. Rather, he just looks like a character who would show up in regular show. Maybe there is a more specific example I'm thinking of. I don't remember off the top of my head. I haven't seen regular show in years, but he just looks like a character who would show up in that series. And I'm like,
okay.
I know that the creator has referenced some anime. Like there was like an Eva opening in like one of the episodes. But so I'm like, does he know? Does he have that deep of a cut into anime? Like, is he familiar with Kinnikuman?
Right. Like, I mean, I know he looks a little like Hulk Hogan. I think it's definitely Hulk Hogan. I know who Hulk Hogan is.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I don't know, specifically like the face and then like with the mask is what gives me like regular show vibes.
Hulk Hogan doesn't actually wear a mask, but he, it's the
yeah,
mustache and the hair.
Now that you mention that, it's really obvious, and I don't know how I didn't get that.
Yeah, it's like, you miss the forest for the trees, like you're thinking of, regular show, which might have had a Hulk Hogan look-alike character, and for some reason that comes because it's a cartoon, and this Kinnikuman's like, a comic, a manga. It's so, there's an abstraction there where, they're both, that's fair. So anyway, one funny, I thought how this arc starts was kind of funny, where Ashraman and Sunshine, they steal the friendship box that has all of the characters' friendship inside of it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just one of those things where it's just like, okay, that's because it's just so like, and it is used in like, to directly show their friendships. And I think the way that this arc explores friendship and starts off by having the friendship of the main characters just like gone, where they're not quite really friends anymore. Like I thought that was neat, but it's also just like, I just think it's silly and fun how the series will just like do shit like this, where it's like, the friendship box containing all the friendship of the main characters.
It's not
like, oh my god,
friendship power. Like it's actually quantified.
Right. That's what's funny about it. Where it's like, you have Musica being like, don't never underestimate the power of friendship. But Ashraman and Sunshine have, stolen the power of friendship. They're the evilest evil guys in Shounen, and they haven't been surpassed. How many bad guys in Shounen have taken the friendship power? Right, it's just so I love it.
Also, thinking back to your Hulk Hogan comment, or because obviously that now seems clearly to me that's who the character is referencing, and I think that's really interesting because like Kinnikuman predates Hulkamania, but like over the course of serialization, like maybe this was around when it was like when he was really starting, because he had wrestled before
years.
He was the big like wrestling icon. Like he had done stuff in Japan, and as a lot of wrestlers around that time did, traveling the world and hitting the territories and whatever. But that's like really interesting then, because he wasn't a character who would have been like referenced earlier on. Like earlier on, there were a lot of references to wrestlers even before him.
Yeah,
and so like now he's whereas like nowadays, if someone's gonna reference wrestling, Hulk Hogan would be like one of the like top. Like, are they gonna reference this guy?
Oh, the fact that I knew him is a big indicator. Like, like I know certain like Dusty Rhodes. Like I think there was even a cover page, or I think it was Dusty. There's that where it's like it mentions his retirement again, or like now retired, and it's like, well, that didn't last. So,
that wasn't Dusty.
Yeah.
That was Terry Funk.
Terry. Oh, god damn it. This is why I say I'm terrible.
But there was the one character in the American tour arc that was literally Dusty Rhodes. Like that's who he was.
Well, yeah, and with this one, because I know Hulk Hogan. Like, have I watched a full a wrestling match ever in my life? No, but I know who Hulk Hogan is. And like because the manga started in 1979, and this arc would have started around like 1983. So, going into, 84 probably, because that was also pretty long. So, however that lines up with Hulk Hogan's timeline, I get,
There's an idea. Let's cancel the last episode of the Kinnikuman Nen Show and just talk about a wrestling storyline. I'm on board for that. Commenters, can we start a Patreon poll there? Save me. Help.
I'm going to write something down.
Although it's funny that I mentioned that now, because it's like, oh, we're getting to the one part where like I actually have things to say about the arc, and now I'm like, no, let me leave.
So anyway, But yeah, the next arc starts. They find the trophy of so hey, let's do a tag tournament. And I will say, I think I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I do think the way that because it's it's kind of 2-on-2, but also it's not, because I know wrestling, the rules are very loose, where it's technically it's supposed to be 1-on-1 and then you tag someone in, but then there's a lot of times where it just becomes 2-on-2 or 2-on-1. They don't give a fuck. It's wrestling. What's the most entertaining thing we can do?
It's also kind of I find that interesting in that it's also a complaint that I would sometimes have with tag team matches in wrestling, because there is such a thing as a tornado tag where everybody is in the ring at the same time and they're doing things. And there would be certain matches I had seen where things would break off, or they would start with a big brawl and they're breaking things on the outside or whatever. And then they all slowly collectively get back to the ring and it's okay, tag me in. And it's So this story kind of also does that, but it's a genuine reflection of wrestling, which is obviously not a complaint against it. It's just weird.
Yeah. Well, because there's definitely stuff you
that's
can
not the word
do.
I'm looking for.
Right. One example is say you're having a face team fighting a heel team. That I'm sure this has happened a bunch of times, where the face team is doing it by the rules. They're tagging themselves in 1-on-1, but the heels, they'll both jump in and gang up on on one face, And so the rules become part of the conflict, and breaking of the rules becomes meaningful. So it's a question of how they handle it. So but in Kinnikuman, it's that's not really as much of a thing, or maybe it is, and I just wasn't paying enough attention because it came to mind, but I just didn't apply it. Where there's not even a referee, that's also a thing in wrestling, where there's a referee who's enforcing rules, but sometimes he just gets the shit beat out of him. Sometimes he beats the shit out of wrestlers. I've seen at least one clip where a referee just fucking I've even said well, if the referee is way more muscular than usual, then that they're probably actually a wrestler and they're probably gonna go wild at some point, because because it's always a fun shock moment when the wrestler slaps the referee and the wrestler fucking just grapples him and throws him out of the ring or something like that. There's a lot of entertainment value in something like that. But Kinnikuman just doesn't have referees. They used to, once or twice before.
I wonder if there's ever going to be a point where Kinnikuman does a special referee match. Well, technically they did. With Mangomon in the one fight.
Yeah, no,
because he was the official.
And then there was the match with Brocken Man versus Common Man, I think, the snake guy, because there was the remember I thought it was kind of funny when the one referee got caught in the mummy thing and died, and then they open it and he has the badge that says I'm the referee, and it's thank you for your helpful fashion choice to let us know who you are. Right, so there have been referees, but very rarely, because usually they aren't a thing. So, but you did bring up, because Manga Man, that happened in the
Also, I keep tripping up because, I think Kinnikuman, so, every time I see man, I'm Mon. So, Terry Mon, Buffalo Mon, Mongol Mon.
No, I noticed you did that earlier, because, and even, because I kept saying, because Shogun is, the English pronunciation, but that I remember hearing it in, in anime, and they said Shogun, and I'm because that's how you pronounce the goose sound. And I was oh, wait, yeah, that makes sense. But, I'm just so used to pronouncing it by the American pronunciation, an English word, when actually it's a Japanese word. So, I understand, because I made a similar mistake myself. So,
So should I be calling him Kinnikuman?
Yeah, I guess I just end up saying Kinnikuman, but it's I'm not super fussed about pronunciation. There's some that'll bug me a little bit, but, even then, I can't think of any right now, so... I don't even have to think about Zolo, because that one didn't bother me and you never had to, that wasn't, you never said it, so, so I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, everyone splits up, no one wants to be Kinnikuman's tag partner. And this is just a personal thing I thought, is that obviously it's because they don't have their, friendship power. Because I did think, because if they did, I'm sure, Terry Man would have been glad to team up with Kinnikuman, and that's kind of how it ended up anyway. But, they can still have a desire to compete against each other, even if it's still, friendly, they don't have, I did have that thought, but, so, the friendship stuff being taken wasn't required, but, if you're gonna have, Kinnikuman team up with Kamehame, which ended up being important, he has a lot of other people he'd probably choose first, so it does make sense, as to why that happened, but, So like it's just another thought I had of like how it could have been done, but like the way it done was, you know, purposeful and fine. But
yeah, I know,
because
like definitely with the start of this stretch, I was not into it at all. Like there were certain things I just wasn't like a fan of, like the whole friendship power being sealed away was kind of strange because, you know, obviously you can have the characters fight as like competitive rivals, right, and that would be fine. And I had even kind of been thinking like, oh, it would be cool to kind of see, you know, like we have these other villainous characters who are introduced earlier on, but with all the arcs beforehand, where, you know, it's like a big, not like save the world stakes, but there's like a lot. It's very dramatic. It's very serious. Yes. It would be kind of nice to have those like threats, especially like the team I had been thinking of was, you know, the Devils who had like come back. And I was like, oh, okay, they're probably going to get knocked out in the first round. Like, oh, they hyped themselves up, but then they're actually, like, fodder to set something up. That didn't happen. And I was like, oh, okay, we're not doing this at all. And that was kind of disappointing. And I had also initially been frustrated with Terry's heel turn. Because I was like, okay, I can buy into this. This is something kind of interesting. But it doesn't benefit him at all, ever. And then, like, because he immediately, in his first match where he's teaming with Geronimo, there's, like, a good reason for them to be like the villainous team for a bit, because Geronimo had just gained his like Choujin power, so this was his first opportunity. You know, like his power was out of control, I think they described it as, like he couldn't really like manage it yet. So it's like, okay, there's like a reason to buy into this team, and like maybe they'll go to the finals and fight each other as like a, ooh, gotta use the power of friendship to win them back, or that sort of thing. But it was a very short-lived character arc, and that kind of frustrated me initially. But then, you know, things got better from there, so it's fine.
And I also had a personal idea, like, well, I also had a thought, because, like, Geronimo was, like, he was cool before, but then when he becomes a Choujin, he kind of becomes more of an asshole. I think that was a little interesting, just because, you know, I think I mentioned this before, but I've always found that, like, I haven't watched Monogatari in ages, but I did really, like, strike a chord with the idea in Nisimono, where it's like, you know, the imposter being just as valuable, if not more valuable, than the real thing. Mm-hmm. And so with Geronimo, you kind of have the inverse, where he, as a human trying to emulate a Choujin, he had this excellent willpower, and he was able to, like, he beat Sunshine. He was better than the real thing. But then when he became a Choujin, he like, well, now he doesn't have to try anymore. He doesn't have to, you know, surpass himself, because he already is what he wants to be.
That willpower, and he loses that by gaining strength, he loses strength.
Right, so he loses, so that he became less than he was because of that. But, you know, I maybe I didn't apply that well enough, because I definitely had that idea, and I don't know, I'll go over that fight again as we talk about it and see if I know it, because, like, he did lose, like, you know, he hasn't, you know, so he hasn't, like, maybe he hasn't recovered from that yet, and, like, but it also doesn't really dwell on him as much, where, like, Terry Man gets a lot of focus, and we finally get him tag teaming with Kinnikuman again after so long, yeah, because it's funny that you were a little disappointed with how Terry Man handled, where I definitely had some thoughts about Geronimo, and they turned out to be tag teams. Also, it's a little, I kind of like squinted my eyes a little bit when it's like, the cowboy and the Native American are teaming up.
No, yeah, I definitely had that thought too.
Yeah. But anyway, we skipped ahead a bit. Like, Geronimo undergoes his trial to become a Choujin, which, and I guess that also, that even ties into it, because, like, as a human, he was protecting people and being, you know, that was his trial, but then, you know, afterwards, he stopped being himself in the same way. So, I don't know. I just realized that just now, that it feeds into what I was talking about earlier. But anyway, we get all the tag teams, and then, of course, Kinnikuman gets his partner, who's Kamehame from what's it called? The American Tour arc.
I think I did like this arc I think it gave me more of a sense of perspective when there were all these callbacks to a bunch of... Basically, it almost felt like a culmination of a lot of things, because it was callbacks to I mean, the story has been calling back to previous arcs all the time.
Yeah. Well,
but
this
like
way
this story did it like...
Yeah, now that you bring it up. Yeah. Well, because you have, you have Robin Mask and Warsman as the master student duo. That's the 21st Choujin Olympics. You have Kamehame, which is the American Tour, which happened at, right before then. Then you have the Akuma, or Buffalo Man from the Akuma Choujin. You have Ashura Man and Sunshine from just the last arc. Like the only, obviously, I guess it does kind of, Terry Man and Robin Mask. Did it call on their relationship with Kinnikuman? Maybe Terry Man. I guess it did bring up his heroism and stuff, like, from some of the earlier stuff. but no, yeah, with all the references, it kind of brings up a bunch of the previous Kinnikuman stuff. So yeah, that's true. That's I didn't think about it like that. Oh yeah, so also one thing I was curious about with Kinnikuman Great, who was Kamehameha's form, because I was wondering, because it's drawn to be black, and I was like, okay, but what color is it supposed to be? And so like I looked, and sometimes it's drawn as black, and sometimes it's drawn as red, and I don't know when the difference is, like when was it like an adaptational thing? Is it like maybe the black colored one is Kamehameha, where the red one is Terryman? I have no idea, but I was just curious as to what it like looked like in color, because obviously like when you look at colors it's a black and white manga, it's like with Sanji's siblings, is like they all have different color hair, but in manga it's all colored to be white because that's just like what the medium conveys, so I was just curious. So but anyway, yeah, Kinnikuman and Kinnikuman Great are the last pair. Well, kind of, because Ashraman and Sunshine beat up... See, when Canada and Special Man were there, I was like, yeah, these guys are going to job really hard. And they didn't even make it into a match before they jobbed really hard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I guess those are characters that were introduced in the first Choujin Olympics. So there's your connection there, They just immediately get wrecked. Oh yeah! I forgot about the 4D killer combo, because that's characters from the Black Hole from the 7 Akuma Choujin and Pentagon from the 21st Olympics. So it's like, yeah, you're right. They just call back to a lot of it and bring back characters from a lot of the series before. And non-main ones, I think, is what stands out. Like obviously Robin Mask is going to continue to be relevant, but not Pentagon or Black Hole Man or yeah.
Well, I had thought like even with what I had thought, like, a big thing that stands out to me is, like, oh, Robin Mask apparently had this guy who he had confronted back before, like, the first Choujin Olympics. Oh, but he was so strong that he just let Robin Mask have the opportunity. And so there was a sense of, I don't know, like, for the characters, there's, like, something tied to their past, in a way. Yeah. Like, with Kinnikuman, you obviously have Kamehameha coming back, and he plays a role in this arc. I don't remember if there are any other examples like that, but it seemed that's where I kind of got more of the sense of scale from. Like not even just like the cameos from other Choujin, which has been happening like constantly throughout the story. But I don't know. It was
that's fair.
But yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from with like the jobbers, like they were very clearly there to just be defeated so that we can save the critical. Although there weren't many jobbers in this tournament, which I thought was neat.
No, yeah, everyone I think had a fair like showing, And what I was gonna bring up is like I only just realized this now, but like seeing things here that I've also recognized seeing in like later shonen is how the tournament starts, where there's like 8 different paths. And they go out on their path, and then they end up in a fight.
Yeah.
Like the start of the Tenro Island in Fairy Tail, where they go off on their paths, and some of them end up in a fight against another team or an S-rank mage, and Gajeel didn't even need to fight. So I was like, oh yeah.
Although I will say, if we're talking about comparisons between Fairy Tail and Kinnikuman, Fairy Tail did have Gajeel. Fairy Tail had an aesthetic character.
Oh no, that means if you give Fairy Tail a 3 out of 10, that means Kinnikuman's got it. Oh no! But anyway, there's the first fight with the Kinnikuman and Kinnikuman Great versus Pentagon and Black Hole, where they kind of, I thought it was kind of neat how, like, I think they bring up how Kinnikuman, he sees Kamehameha as his mentor, so, like, their partnership is limited because they're not equals. Like there's that sort of dynamic there, and like with Kinnikuman seeing and I guess it ties into Kinnikuman's kind of like confidence or lack of occasional lack of confidence and insecurity, where like he even if has these capabilities, like on some level he never beat, like Kamehameha was his one loss, and I think they bring up that he's the one person who's ever officially beat Kinnikuman, and so on some level like he sort of what's the word I'm looking for? He sort of pays heed to his mentor because he respects him, and on some level maybe sees himself as like less strong than him, even though like I think they even bring up it like with Terryman later when he passes the mask, is that Terryman has willpower and guts, where even if Kamehameha has all these this technique, he's at the end of the day he's getting on in years, so he's not as capable and strong as he used to be. So trying to think if there's anything else I had to say about the
God damn it, I'm gonna have to remake my Insecure Shonen Protagonist video and make it the real Insecure Shonen Protagonist, the greatness of Kinnikuman.
I'll give you $100 if you use the white hole part, audio included, meaningfully. No, I'm kidding.
It was the true moment where he overcame his insecurity because he was willing to...
I don't know either. Don't worry. See, okay, look, I'm going to be honest. This is kind of how I act on the Weeb Club all the time, especially with what? Like when we were talking about Ichigo 100%, because he hated it. And I would just, like, say things that, like, you know... And,
but it
and
has
pretend...
100% Ichigo. Like, I thought What the What was a fan of Bleach.
See, exactly, like that. I wish I had that in mind when we were recording that. So, like, because that's what I'll do, is I'll say things deliberately to, like, poke at him and make him mad. And I just realized, like, I'm kind of doing that here, where I'll you know, because I know Mathwiz doesn't like Kinnikuman. I know I'm the heel. I was the heel the whole time. But anyway, they pull off the muscle docking, the team attack, because they're able to, you know, like, Kinnikuman actually gives, like, you know, he does kind of, you know, he's the one supporting Kamehame by, you know, telling it, you know, helping him sort of, like, you know, don't give up, and, you know, when he's trapped in the alternate dimension thing, and so they are able to surpass, you know, to win finally. So, yeah. It was neat. See, and that's probably one of the weaker fights, and I already have some, like, takeaways from there, and I'm like, yeah, this arc, maybe it's pretty good. So anyway, the next fight, there's, oh yeah, you're right, it was Terry Funk. I'm at that page now. I don't remember names. I'm sorry. Terry Funk, a.k.a. Dusty Rhodes, according to Craftsdwarf. Don't listen to me, I don't know what I'm talking about. So anyway, yeah, there was, Brocken Jr. and Wolfman versus, Screwman and Kendaman.
See, this, I remember, like, at the time that this was happening, I was like, you know, at the time, back in, like, 1983, when I was reading this week. No, but, like, when this started, it was, like, a little frustrating, because it's like, oh, these two characters come in out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, we gotta... Because, again, like, this was talking about, like, the friendship power and stuff, so I was like, oh, okay, so we get the friends fighting against each other. There's something there. Characters I'm invested in fighting against characters I'm invested in, at least from the sense, like, I've seen these characters do things. I know who they are. But then, like, two randos come in, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, because we need to have the evils. We can't have the... I don't know. It ended up being fine in the end, because it made sense as far as... Like they were obviously introduced to flesh out the big bads a little more,
right? The concept of and their kind of ideals with that as perfect Choujin, because, like, well, you can't show off how the perfect Choujin reject weakness and failure if you only have two perfect Choujin who have to be in the finals, because, like, so they introduce these lesser perfect Choujin who lose to show off how they like, you know, they have these rules that reject failure. And of course you also have, because they're up against Brocken, or, you know, brutal Choujin. Which, and, because, yeah, you can, I think at one point you even had, like, one of each of the four. You had a Justice Choujin team, a Brutal Choujin team, a Devil Choujin team, and then the Perfect Choujin team. So you kind of had one of each. I think it was, like, when they hit the semifinals, because the Perfect Choujin were obviously Neptune Man and Budo. The Devil Choujin were Ashura Man and Sunshine. The Justice Choujin were Kinnikuman and Kinnikuman. I forget if it was Terry Man at that point, or... Kamehame, and then the last team would have been Brutal Choujin, who would have been Robin Mask and Warsman, I think they were the ones who made it. I'm trying to remember who. I think it was them. Or maybe it was Buffalo Man and Mongol Man. I don't even remember right now. I can't remember who lost first.
Yeah. It was Buffalo Man and Mongol Man.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's kind of neat. And someone in the comments also said that I guess they do more with those four different concepts in the future. Which maybe, and by future, and probably mean beyond this reading of the original run, because again, there's the Ultimate Muscle, and then the second half of Kinnikuman, which, yeah, I'm curious as to, you know, getting to it once it's translated. So, like I said, it's a question, like, what's the first series on the Nen Show we're going to read 100 volumes of first? One Piece or Kinnikuman? And I know which one you would prefer to read first, but is Oda gonna finish Wano, or is the fan translating group gonna finish Kinnikuman, or Sicily Ultimate Muscle? But yep.
Oh no! Kinnikuman is now part of our catch-up. Oh no! Oh no! Even when I think it's over, it's not over.
Mathis is in despair. It's okay. We'll read Fairy Tail Century Quest instead.
Honestly, I might prefer that.
Oh no. But anyway, Buffalo Man and Manga Man, coming with the team attack. They beat the imperfect Choujin. The actual perfect Choujin reveal themselves and dispose of that weakness. Oh yeah, so looking at it again, Budo, like they take off their cloaks and stuff after the imperfect Choujin lose. And Budo, he has like sunglasses and he has spike things just like Neptune Man. And then like literally the next chapter he gets attacked and it breaks, and he has the more like the kendo helmet, and like he changes his design like immediately, and I kind of forgot that happened, which I guess like goes like plans change, and maybe they were like, well, maybe we don't want two characters looking this similar, so they just changed it immediately. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was a minor thing. It just like came to mind just now as I was flipping through. But yeah, going back to what you were saying earlier about the characters and their pasts, like Robin Mask fighting Coral Man. And Coral Man was being disappointed and just giving up and like not actually fighting. But anyway, then you get Robin Mask and Warsman versus Neptune Man and Budo.
Oh wait, I just like half remembered something, but I don't. What was it? It had something to do with masks and the fact that it's something to do with Warsman, and I don't remember what specifically it was, but there was something about masks.
Well, there was something. Because just to quote what I'm looking at right now is that Neptune Man sort of says that masks sort of they're a good representation of perfection, because if you lose and get unmasked, then you're a loser. So a perfect like he complains about like masks as they're just a decoration item now, because you can lose your mask and get it back and no one cares. Like he sees them as like he sees them as this like meaningful status symbol that it no longer is that. So he wants to like fix that by removing everyone's mask and only giving them out to perfect Choujin, who if they lose, they die. Which is also turns out that's how
Oh, that's right. They mentioned.
Go on.
Or maybe that was it. I don't know. Because I remember like there being a mask versus mask match between Warsman and Kinnikuman, and no one died. So I was like, what do you mean you die if you lose your mask? I don't know.
Well, Kinnikuman, or at least he has to give up the throne, I think, or something like that if he loses, where with Warsman, he just wanted it for, that was just part of, like, well, Warsman doesn't die if he loses his mask, obviously, but that also kind of ties in to what Neptune Man was saying about how, like, the mask doesn't mean anything anymore. Even Robin Mask, like, he, when he got killed by Atlantis Man, I think he lost his mask, and because when he came back, he came out of the water, put his mask back on, and he was fine. So like Kinnikuman is the only one who, he has lost against Kamehame, but he didn't lose his mask because that wasn't a mask fight. So he's in a sense Kinnikuman's closer to being perfect than some of the other characters, even though he's also like he's Kinnikuman. He's the least perfect character. Like he's just this fuck up and this like he wins, but he's just he's also Kinnikuman. Like I don't need to explain.
Also, now that I think about it, if Robin Mask lost his mask, I guess he's just Robin now. I can't believe they didn't make that joke. I thought Kinnikuman was supposed to be a comedy. Where's the joke? I'm not laughing.
Damn, Mathwiz is mean. I feel like there's definitely some stuff I wanted to say about this fight, but I can't remember right now. Like we do get more of a Coral Man's backstory where he he didn't have any good opponents, so he committed suicide, and that's how he got the Neptune mask, and sort of like because the King Neptune sort of did the exact same thing in the past, and so I guess the perfection thing is also like looking for more opponents, because if more people were perfect like them, then I guess there would be stronger opponents. But at the same time, of course, as we find out, like perfection isn't everything, and he loses. So, but anyway, Robin Mask. I like some of his lines. Like he talks about how like if it means I can't cry, then I refuse to be then I choose not to be perfect. And then of course he says perfection is everything, and then that kind of gets proven because he loses his mask. He's no longer, that's what was, Neptune Man was saying, and we don't see his face, but, like later he comes up with just like a very simple mask.
Yeah.
I don't expect to ever see his face, honestly, but I do wonder sometimes.
Well, I mean, yeah, he really is like Robin Mask. Like it's a part of his character, and so there is a, like when he loses his mask, there's like a real weight to it. It's like, oh, wow, this character who, and even his face is kept in shadow, so it like adds to the, like, oh, this is a big deal. Like he just lost that, before like he had the armor, but he like cast off the armor, so he was like kind of losing the big distinct trademarks, and now he's lost the mask even.
Yeah,
I mean,
where
who
with
even is he?
Worstman, he's already lost it before, so we know what he looks like under it.
Yeah.
I think I was gonna say something else, but now it's gone. Oh yeah, I guess that's gotta be. I wonder if this is the oldest. No, I feel like there's of like a mask character and not getting to see what's under it. Like even though it's teased, because there was a. I mean, I just thought of Naruto, like Kakashi, where has this mask, and we wonder what does he look like underneath there, but we never see it. So
yeah, there's even an anime filler episode which is all about what's under the mask.
Yep,
but you never know. Did Kinnikuman have an anime original episode where it's what's under Robin Mask's mask?
Maybe, I believe it. But anyway, Robin Mask and Warsman lose. Yeah, and then we get Terry Man and Geronimo versus Ashura Man and Sunshine. Because and like you said, this is Terry Man's very short-lived heel turn. Because he even starts out strangling Ashura Man with a bandage. That's not something a face does.
I also thought it was interesting. It was interesting in concept because it was he couldn't defeat Ashura Man the first time they fought. It ended in a draw. So now he's betraying his ideals and kind of becoming the darker Choujin and doing these things, and it's will he see results from that? But he doesn't, which ends up being playing into the themes, even though at the time I was kind of frustrated that nothing came of that.
Geronimo failed and Terry Man they were failing to be themselves. Terry Man loses the stars on his arm, I think, right? Or am I thinking of earlier? Yeah, and of course and of course it also ends up sacrificing Kinnikuman Great, or because I think he gets, or no, wait, no, that's later. He saves Terry Man. That's right. From the rollers. Yeah, I'm remembering correctly now because I'm getting into it. Right. So so Terry Man's failure not only loses him the match, but also hurts Kamehame. So in order to sort of right himself, he takes on that mask and gets that inherited will, you could say. That was actually skipping through. That was a shortish fight. But yeah, I am kind of curious about Geronimo because like I said earlier, I had that idea and he just kind of he loses and then he just kind of stops being a thing in the arc. So I don't know where Geronimo's arc is going, if it goes anywhere after this, because obviously because if I judging by what we've seen is I would assume it's that he betrayed himself but when he became a Choujin by changing his character. And, so returning to who he used to be, but still as a Choujin would be the ideal. But, obviously that doesn't happen in this stretch of chapters, so. But anyway, yeah, Kamehame passes away. He passes on the mask to Terry Man Great, or Terry Man Great, I guess you could call him that. But yeah, so now we get what the audio, what I was expecting from the beginning, before Terry Man was no, where, Kinnikuman and Terry Man have to tag up. But anyway, then we get the, oh, that's right. They redid the order for the next matches. So you get Buffalo Man and Mongo Man versus Budo and Neptune Man, and then Kinnikuman and Great versus Sunshine and Ashura Man. And I guess this is the fight where Ashura Man became your favorite character in Kinnikuman.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely became a lot more interesting. And, by way of me not being super invested in Kinnikuman, that might mean that he's my new favorite character.
Yeah. And I kind of liked it because you had Ashura Man, we find out his history and that he's sort of the antithesis to Kinnikuman, who he's this born justice Choujin, while Ashura Man's this born devil Choujin. And so he really about he was raised with those ideals of no mercy is for the weak, kindness is for the weak, and so he can't which of course ties to the friendship thing where he's the perfect antithesis to friendship, but he also has to work with Sunshine Man, who even he's not Sunshine Man, he's just Sunshine. Why did I say? I'm so used to Kinnikuman like we're gonna read One Piece like Wano and like so Luffy Man fights. Wait, oh no, like.
No, but yeah, I did think this it's a very simple thing, obviously, but the fact that it's a tag team tournament and here's a character who alliances don't matter, friendship doesn't matter, but hey, wait a minute, he's it's a tag team match. He has a partner, but they thematic conflict. Ooh,
yeah, and
messages.
At the end of the day, you kind of get like almost a Naruto thing where it's like because of this fighting, like these bonds have come about. I'm fighting. Is in this case with or with Madara, he like had this respect for Hashirama, his enemy. Naruto and Sasuke, of course, but here you have Ashraman allied with Sunshine, who it's like Sunshine doesn't want Ashraman to be hurt, like he's falling into that the weakness of friendship, the sacrifice and stuff, and where he's like he's risking the match being lost because he won't let Ashraman come to harm that because like he Ashraman face changes and he's actually like touched by it, even though like he's supposed to not like that weakness and stuff, and it was cool and good. Did you have any thoughts on Ashraman and the fight specifically, or because I'm still looking through it?
I mean, that might have been it. I might have already said my piece. I mean, like, I guess, I don't know, like, generally, I've had this, like, weird feeling, this weird reaction to Kinnikuman, where it's, like, it's very clearly, like, doing the tropes that in other stories I tend to be fine with, and I tend to, like, enjoy. Like, that's why I like coming back to these stories, is that I like the tropes that they tend to adhere to. But, like, for whatever reason, it was doing it in a way that, like, I wasn't vibing with.
I mean, my assumption is that, even if you do, like, the tropes, like, you also, like the characters that the tropes are involved in, or the other, maybe the themes of the story. Like, there's other aspects that you like, and with Kinnikuman, you don't have that. Because when I was, to say is, like, or what?
But yeah, like, what I was, like, leading into is that, like, this fight is arguably, like, one of the tropier, because it's like, power of friendship, and so the guy that's happened with other characters too, but for some reason this one clicks with me more because it's like, the fact that it's a tag team tournament and he tries to fight in this way that is like, the whole time he's like working with a partner, and there, when he tries to like be antithetical to that like environment, it works against him, and he ends up becoming one of the good guys, sort of like he succumbs to the power of friendship. He gets talk no jutsu'd, and I don't know, that's cool. I like that. Yeah. It's nice. But I guess that's about it.
I liked it because like the way humanizes Ashraman through like having him try to do the opposite, but then ends up getting changed. Like I liked it. It was neat. Maybe one of my standout fights of the series so far. And in this arc, because like I checked my list, and right now my list is Kinnikuman versus Robin Mask was the first time I really went like Kinnikuman, and then Warsman was also good. Buffalo Man especially was I couldn't put that one down, but this arc actually has two fights that I liked, and one of them was this one with Kinnikuman and Kinnikuman Great versus Ashraman and Sunshine, and then it had the final fight, which I also liked. Final fight for some wild shit. Like, this manga is already pretty wacky, and then like there's some shit that happens. Look, like when that fucking Neptune Man and Budo, they failed their prediction, so they just like, no, we didn't, and then they fucking like grab each other, and then they use magnetism to roll the Earth back in time like 5 minutes so that they could redo it. It's like, hold the fuck up. It was just like, this manga just has very few limits, and I can appreciate that. But anyway, then we get the Neptune Man and Budo versus Mongol Man and Buffalo Man, which I assume because going back to the mask thing, where it's like, obviously we as the audience know it to be Ramen Man, but the characters by and large don't, so I guess there's a little bit more of a consequence, or at least attention to him being unmasked.
Well, yeah, there's definitely, why is he wearing a mask? Like, that's, like, even if the audience knows it's Ramen Man, the question remains, like, why is he wearing the mask? And so, we're able to find that out later, and it's like, oh, okay, so it does, I think it's a good follow-up to, you have Robin Mask, whose character, at least his image, is very defined by the mask. And then for Ramen Man, ever since his return, he's been under this mask. So it's less of like an appearance thing, but more of a, I don't know, like solving of a mystery. So there's definitely a different kind of weight to it, but it still like carries the gravitas from the I can't remember the dude's name, Neptune Man, when he had to like overcome Robin Mask, and now he has to overcome another character, and so like it's still carrying that weight through.
And one thing I just thought of is that like how the Manga Man mask it's like made out of this material that actually helps Ramen Man like function. It helped because otherwise he would just return to his like comatose state. And like so it's a mask that he needs this mask because he is imperfect. And I thought about that because it's like because Neptune Man talks about the masks as they should be a mark of perfection, but at the end of the day he is like wrong, and perfection isn't the only thing, and that there's more that like he ends up being beaten by Kinnikuman, the picture of imperfection. But then so I only just now realized like, oh yeah, the Manga Man mask is like Ramen Man needs it because he's not perfect, because he's wounded and he needs this help. So yeah, that was it ties to the idea. There was one thing I have in my notes I'm trying to get to.
I think the only part of like this fight, and then it kind of carries over into the final fight. It's like I don't really understand what the magnetism how that ties into like the friendship. I mean, I guess like the attraction, I was kind
of reading into it, like
repelling.
It's a force that fundamentally is about like attraction and repulsion, and it's being used by people who don't respect like friendship and the natural sort of like any sort of like bonds or connections. So there's like I guess it's and of course it's a tag tournament, so like they're speaking out against friendship power, but they're in a tournament that needs friendship, and they're using a power that needs like teamwork and companionship. And like they are people, like we find out that Budo is King Neptune. Like they're people who have this connection, like this emotional connection, because they both like committed suicide in the same place because for the same reason. Even if they aren't like friends, they're still like very similar to each other, but like their ideals are, so I guess it's kind of, I guess what I thought was interesting about it is because usually you have the powers that do match what the character is. Like, Naruto's lonely, and he wants to connect to people, so he has the shadow clones, and like that's what Sasuke says. Or Luffy, he's a free man and he's resilient, so he has this power that like stretches his body, and he takes hits and he bounces back, so you have the power that matches. But here you have Neptune Man, who has a power that is at a complete odds with what he's doing. And I guess you could say because that's another part. That's part of his like actual imperfection. Because his powers don't match his ideals, like the power. So yeah. But I don't know if there's more to go into. Like I feel like there should be another step there, but I don't know. I'd have to think about it more, because like this is probably like the first arc where it's like I could actually feel like I'd reread it and do a video on it. Like this is like something I'd want, because I think there's cool stuff going on here, and like we'll talk more about like, because it explores. I do think it explores the weaknesses of friendship with the sacrifice and stuff, but it does get into the positives too, which we'll talk about. But first I want to bring up this line that I thought was interesting, maybe a little funny, where it's like Kinnikuman's dad is like, our ancestors had no tolerance for those who rejected friendship power. And there's like a little bit of like irony there, because it's like, friendship, what, you don't like friendship? Well, you can't be our friend. Like, like there's just this absolutism there that's just kind of like, well, and especially because like Kinnikuman is someone who has, I guess that's what I was going to say. Because Kinnikuman has a magnetism towards him, because he has that Shounen power of people like wanting to help him and gathering people behind him. He has a magnetism towards him, even though he doesn't have like literal magnet powers. And yeah, this is why I think the arc is kind of like neat and how it does some stuff. But with this line specifically, I thought it was interesting because like, obviously Kinnikuman did make friends with former enemies of his, like Buffalo Man or Ramen Man. Actually, even Terry Man, he was kind of like antagonistic with at first. They had like, because he was being shown up, and Terry Man didn't respect him. But like so basically all of Kinnikuman's allies are people who he was against at some point, and now they're friends. And so I just thought it was interesting, especially because I thought about the Naruto, which goes even more into it, like Talk no Jutsu, and a series you haven't read called Medaka Box, where the goal of Medaka is she wants to be friends, like every enemy she wants to befriend, basically, which it's supposed to tie in. It's kind of meta, so that's supposed to be tie into
more like meta. Sorry.
No, I know that's fine. I thought the same thing while I was saying it, but you said it, so it's fine. It would have made sense if I said it. But anyway, friendship, effort, victory, the Shonen Jump motto, and friendship is so of course it's meant to like reflect and comment on that. But at this point, like that Kinnikuman's not trying to befriend bad guys. He's trying to defend himself or win or save a life or whatever the stake is. But but when I read that line, I just thought about how things have there's been series that comment or explore that aspect a little more, where it's just like, and it is just funny to read that absolutism when even it's not even like fully true to the series, because people who did reject friendship power become friends, so it's cool. But also, like, you get a kind of weird thing here with the iron sweat, where, traitorous Choujin will literally sweat iron that makes them magnetic so that they can be manipulated by Neptune Man. It does turn out, yeah, so it's just one of those, like, really weird things that just happens, and you have to roll with it. And it's like, yeah, okay. Like, some of it, some of that I'm fine with because it's fun, and this one is definitely a little bit more, like, sure, okay, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely stories where the absurdity of it doesn't, and it's very much like not that Kinnikuman is one or the other. It's obviously like depends from person to person. Like, some stories can be super out there and wacky and absurd, and it's like, oh, but that doesn't really, even if I don't get it, that doesn't detract from my enjoyment. Whereas, it also can be like, it's absurd and I don't get it, and it's just kind of there.
Yeah, and for you,
I don't know, tends to be how I feel with right. Kinnikuman, but I understand, like, if it works for some people.
Yeah, and
like,
sometimes I feel like that.
I'm not here to tell you that you can't enjoy Kinnikuman. I'm just here to suffer.
But yeah, sometimes I like that, and sometimes or sometimes I'm like, that's weird. But it's just, it's a very like how one reacts to things is just very personal, and the definition of subjective. But it's like, if it's what someone enjoys, then I have even if you don't personally like it, I get where you're going with it, or what you're trying to say. But anyway, I don't remember if I have any more to say about the fight. Well, I guess, like, them having the iron sweat of a traitor, because I think at one point, like, they stop feeling like they're a traitor, and or one of them, and they stop with the iron sweat, so they're no longer weak and they no longer have that weakness. And I guess another thing that sort of builds into later, because you have Buffalo Man who gets beaten up and loses, but he has this, they say, he has this peaceful face because of his restored friendship with Kinnikuman. So, like, even if there is this, like, pain and sacrifice and loss, of course, with the grief of having to deal with a friend losing or dying, even, obviously, which doesn't mean a whole lot in Kinnikuman, but hey, like, again, it's more of that weakness, but there's more positivity there. Because, like, having the bond is still like a good thing, even so, which is I'll bring up again later when I bring, because, like, how they win, kind of. But anyway, the fight ends with Ramen Man losing his mask, and we get his little backstory with the Manga Man mask, which I already talked about a bit.
It also, I mean, I guess there were, like, a couple little moments, but this was another one of them where I think it was between, like, this and also, like, just the fact that Kamehame comes back and has, like, a different role in this arc, where he had, it's like, did the author ever plan on bringing, like, this character back in this capacity, or did it just kind of work out that way? And so, as far as, like, the alter ego of Mongol Man is concerned, like, was that originally what the plan was with Ramen Man wearing the mask, or did it just kind of work out that way? Like, is that just kind of what the authors, or what the
I think like
the duo just kind of decided to go with?
Because I'm assuming it's definitely more of a just like things like because they come up with this idea with the masks, and then they find ways to work with what they already have, basically. Like we mentioned in the first reading, how like there seems to be these like they like, it was the Terry Man and the Kinnikuman, like there was some interaction they had, and like it seemed it was going to build in something, and then like it just kind of gets dropped the next chapter, where they just they didn't like it, so they decided to do something else or whatnot. So it definitely is, I'm not gonna say there's zero plans in foreshadowing, but on the whole, on average, I would assume that they're definitely like coming up with ideas. Like they probably like, here, let's come up with a bunch of ideas for this arc, and then some of them change, but then like. Yeah, and generally, like, yeah, they're getting better at working with the long format. Because, like, yeah, it's a different style of writing when you're writing something long and ongoing like this, because you have to continually like, adapt, and sometimes adapt to reader demands, or, in this, like, which they not only have, not demands, that's a bit extreme, but more like, because, they hear opinions, and that makes them think about the story in a different way. And then they have the fan-submitted characters, so that when they get one, they have to, for every single one, they have to consider, how can I use this in Kinnikuman? And sometimes they come up with these characters that are, a lot of them are now, like I said, long-standing and iconic, just from, like, a design. Like, Robin, like for some reason, Robin Mask is one that stands out to me most, because they got this one character who's, like, a muscle man with a mask, and they're like, we're gonna make him one of the most important characters in our series, and then that series became important, and there he is, and I just think that's, and there's the skills there too, and obviously, like, there's failings in that, but they're getting better, I think, as a duo, like, I've seen some of the later art, and it's like because they're still going. They're still fucking going. Like, holy shit. Like, because I only just realized this, but I think there was a pretty decent break between the first Kinnikuman series and Ultimate Muscle, but like, there's so many, like, Detective Conan started in the 90s. Hajime no Ippo started, like, 2 years after this and is still ongoing. It's like, guys, are you okay? Like, you've only been working for, like 30, 40 years straight. So, like, and it's just, and so, of course, they're also going to be improving when it comes to, like, not just art, but writing and stuff. So, and there's already improvement here, and we're just, like, 4 years in, or over 4 years in, so, it's cool. So anyway, Kinnikuman loses his arm, and this is where I get to, like, what sort of ends up surpassing the perfect Choujin as far as the friendship goes, because again, they've already explored the weaknesses a lot, and, like, even here you have the doctor who comes in, and he, like, he was at the place where Mongol Man went, or Ramen Man went, because his body, like, he had a tumor, and so he was dying, but then he sacrificed himself to help and do the surgery to give Kinnikuman the Buffalo Man horn bone. And so, like, well, and even Kinnikuman having the bone, I think, is interesting, because, like, there's even a part during the fight where I think it gets at it very directly, when he's, like, supported with, like, the spirits of his friends. And that's the, like, kind of, I guess, the idea there is, with the real strength of friendship power, is that, like, the bonds can even surpass, like, death, basically, where he's able to, like, he's being supported by these friends who, like, literally in the case of Buffalo Man with the bone in his arm, and just, like, in spirit with everyone sort of, like, helping him resist, like, because I think he was being pushed by Neptune Man, and, like, you see all the images of his friends. So, like, friendship power is strong enough to surpass death, basically. So, which is why it's so strong. Yeah. And I was like, friendship power. So, and it tied all the, the bonds and the even weakness in a sense, because, like, those were all characters who'd lost, who are still helping Kinnikuman in spirit, but they're able to support him anyway, just because they aren't perfect doesn't mean they can't, support and help. And I thought it was, and of course, and it's just really, like, it's very literal there with Kinnikuman's the Buffalo Man bone, because he's literally, like, has this powerful arm now thanks to Buffalo Man. So, thought it was good. Though there was more going on with the final fight, because you also had Kinnikuman Great being revealed as Terry Man, which, of course, it affects Terry, it affects Kinnikuman, because he was, like, I think he even says at the point, like, you killed Kamehame, because Terry Man was partly at fault for Kamehame sacrificing himself, but Kamehame also made that choice himself, so Kinnikuman was wrong for thinking that way. Did you have any thoughts on this final fight?
I don't know. I feel like I don't really have anything interesting to say about, like, how it ties everything together. I don't know, maybe I feel like it'd be more interesting, like, just to hear what you think, and maybe that'll help me think of something, because I don't know, reading it was just kind of like, I feel like the more interesting stuff was what happened before.
Yeah, because, like, I already said some of the things that like they bring up how they're relying, Coral Man, or Neptune Man and King Neptune are relying on Earth's power, so like they're still not like, well, because they even say like, oh, we don't use weapons, but then they're still using like an outside source of power in their magnetism, and like, okay, there was a whole wacky thing with the key and like needing the keyhole, and I was like, okay, this is happening right now. But that when Neptune Men lost that magnetic power, like they were weakened. There is that really perfection, and of course, like basically everything they're doing. And I guess that kind of factors in with how the magnetism kind of like, I'm only thinking of this now, or how the magnetism sort of, it doesn't really fit with their ideals. Where like, yeah, because it doesn't fit with them, and that's why when they can lose their power, and they do. So and I guess there's also King Neptune being like this old, like, they take off his mask and he's just this old withered, man. So it's, I guess, like, a
parallel to
yeah, well, that's what I was about to say,
Kamehameha.
because like, because he has, Coral Man, but part of, I guess, like, they're perfect, like they're still both acting agents, where Kamehameha he passed the torch to Terry Man and taught both him and Kinnikuman, like, one man can't exist forever, so by sort of like, again, there's another bond there, by passing the torch and sort of like continuing, they're able to surpass themselves in a sense, and keep that bond going, like keep that fire going, like, I don't know, it just manages to do well with the ideas that's handling, I think. And and there's, other crazy stuff that happens, but, like, again, they turn back time.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the fact that, like, Terry supposedly dies and then, like, gets struck by lightning and comes back to life in the middle of the fight.
You also had Osherman coming back to return Terry's stars after he, when it, like...
Oh, yeah.
It was a, oh my god. I'm looking, and this, like, because I'm at the start of the fight, like, a little after the start of the fight. This fight was a volume long. Like, the whole volume was just this one fight. That's more than a volume. Oh my god. Because I just started volume 23, and the fight's already in progress, and it's, like, the last fight of the arc. So, it was wild.
Yeah, I guess that's also kind of interesting, seeing where Kinnikuman has come as far as, like, its production, because, like, in the beginning it's more comedy focused.
Very episodic, right.
The chapters, like, in this arc in particular, the chapters started getting longer. Like, they went from, at most, maybe you'd get, like, a 15-page chapter to now we were getting up to, like, 18, 19, 20 sometimes. And so, like, there'd be less chapters per volume. But also the fact that, like, this fight, taking, like, an entire volume, even a little over volume to complete. I don't know if there were any other, like, big
and I didn't actually notice
like
the
that.
pages changing, but
I mean, like, there were other...
I forget if I mentioned before or if it was just in discussion, but I was told that, like, basically comedy series tend to have, like, 15 to 16 pages. Like, it's also true of early Dragon Ball, but, like, Otoko Ippiki, or Ippiki, I might have mispronounced that, Gaki da Sho, which is, it's apparently the series that sort of, like, popularized, like, the friendship effort victory and stuff in Jump, even though it wasn't quite this. I think Kinnikuman was said to be the first series to really, like, represent that. But it had 19 chapters, and it was older than 19 chapters, 19 pages a chapter, 19 to 20 pages a chapter before Kinnikuman. So it was, because I was even mentioning, like, oh, is it because it's an older series? Because Dragon Ball was also kind of like that. But no, comedy series are just allowed to have shorter page counts compared to more action, adventure, or oriented stuff. I don't know if that's still true, because I'd have to look at some of the gag manga that are still in Modern Jump. Actually,
I think I've seen, I know Taser Lad reads, like, Modern Jump, and I think he's mentioned, like, a series before that has, like, a shorter chapter count and is, like, I don't remember what specifically it was.
Right now, because I'm also reading Modern Jump.
Oh, yeah, that's
no, it is.
right.
So I just looked at the most recent chapter of Me and Roboco, or Boko to Roboco. Not very good, but the chapters are 15 pages long, and it's very much a gag series. So yeah, this is still something that's true, where gag and comedy stuff is more likely to be like 15 pages, and other things are more likely to be 19 to 20 pages. So at this point, they basically went, it's not a gag series anymore. It still has these wacky roots and this, it is absurdity that, obviously wasn't happening in, Fist of the North Star, which would have been a little later, if not at the same time. Ring ni Kakuro, which was about the same time and being much more serious overall. Like, those were going to be like 19 chapters, where Kinnikuman became that, and I guess that, It's also very much like a very little representation of how like the series changed, which, again, Togashi mentioned that and used that with Yu Yu Hakusho, where he liked how Kinnikuman changed its genre, and he thought that was interesting for a series to do that. And here you have Dragon Ball and Kinnikuman like not only changing genre but changing page counts because of that. Like it's just like I hadn't thought of it like that. What were you gonna say? I feel like I heard you,
say
but
something?
you might just go like, oh, okay, or said something. Okay, never mind. This discussion is already turning out longer. We're almost done though. Like I've already talked about a lot of the fight. Like I'm still gonna skim through it, but we have another popularity poll first.
Yeah.
So now Buffalo Man is number 1. Which I can understand that more so than Ramen Man. Like, Ramen Man's fine, but I just personally like Buffalo Man a little more. Then number 2 is Robin Mask. Number 3 is Brocken Jr., who still has the most female fans. 4 is Ramen Man, so he fell a few places. Kinnikuman went up though. He's number 6.
Oh, actually, I think it's maybe Ramen Man's popularity dropped because Mongol Man's popularity went up. And so maybe if they were combined, maybe
that's always
the
thing to consider, because I remember in one of the One Piece popularity polls, I think during Dressrosa, where Law was number 2, and Luffy only barely surpassed them because Lucy's votes were counted as Luffy, which I don't know, because I would assume that for Usopp and Sogeking, Sniper King, I would assume that their votes were gonna they should vote. Their votes should be counted the same, and I don't actually. I'd have to check and see if that was the case, because if not, then that's kind of unfair, because Usopp and Sniper King have always been the same person. Where Lucy has also been Sabo, so it's a little different there. So that, I understand it being considered Luffy because it's Luffy, but because maybe Robin Man and Mongol Man should have just been counted the same, and then Robin Man probably would have been the most popular, but he got split up between Mongol Man, so that would have definitely lowered his position, because people would have voted for Robin Man, probably would have voted for Mongol Man. So
I mean, I do think it's not it's like looking at the characters who tend to be on the popular side, like I guess Buffalo Man makes sense. He comes back, has a key role in a lot of the arcs ever since he showed up. Robin Mask tends to have a big... Brocken Jr. tends to not do much,
but
so
girls
that's a bit of a surprise.
They like...
the female
they like the Nazi,
readers,
apparently,
even back in, the 70s, the 80s, they existed. So even though, Jump is, primarily target... it's Shounen... Yes. Doesn't necessarily even mean
Jump in particular has a fair amount of female readers, especially for things like Haikyuu or Bleach or Rurouni Kenshin, where they had a lot of female readers compared to average series. So I don't know if Kinnikuman had a lot of maybe it was more balanced, maybe it leaned towards because I think One Piece is 70 to 30 male to female, where Nisekoi is 93 to 7 male to female. Nisekoi had very few female readers. But so I've seen there was an infograph. If I find it, I will try to share it. But it was interesting. But I'm wondering what Kinnikuman's looked like. Was it 90 to 10, 95 to 5, maybe more of an 80 to 20? Maybe it was how many female readers were there is what I'm wondering. Popular polls are always kind of interesting to at least look at for a little bit. But I don't think I had anything else to say on the fights. I kind of already went over everything from my notes. But it was wild. It was fun. There, it tied together some of the threads really well. I thought it was interesting. Friendship.
Yeah. Although I don't know. It's strange in a way to me that I don't know. I had mentioned it earlier that for the most part, I for some reason don't like the way that this story uses the tropes, even though I like the tropes. But then this arc, the friendship is the most basic bitch Shonen Jump trope out there, and I'm no, but it's good actually, and I like this arc.
No, like I said, this is my standout favorite. I still think I'd give Kinnikuman as a whole a 6 right now, but I enjoyed this arc. It was fun to read. The fights, I got stuff out of them, and the conflict overall I think did some, it tied things together well, and also again how it contrasted some of the powers and stuff I thought was cool and neat. So yeah, I am a little worried for the next arc because again, even people I know who like it ended up finding it to be a bit of a slog, and Mathwiz has already found everything up to this point kind of a slog. So
Tag
help!
Coach.
Mathwiz calls for help. Scramble for the Kinniku throne, more scramble for anything else. But yeah, no. So I mean, if worst comes to worst, we can maybe split up the reading and delay Gintama a little more. But for now, I'm just gonna say, and that would mean we'd have to read less for the next reading, but also
the journey
so it's like another
longer.
2 weeks before we get to Gintama, right? But yeah, next time is probably going to be 274 to 391. So 100 something in the teens chapters. So yeah, gonna be one of the longest readings we've done on Nen Show. Probably the longest since Bleach, I think. Maybe Fairy Tail had a long one. I don't remember. But I don't know. Look, also, we say it's long, but at the end of the day, like, I was expecting the last episode of Ashita no Joe to be way longer than it was, and it wasn't, even though it was a longer reading. The Bleach readings were honestly pretty short considering well, we also didn't know what we were talking about, but that's neither here nor there. Now, it would be way longer, and it would also be like this, where I'm doing most of the... no, I don't know. If you reread Bleach, maybe, but I have more notes on Bleach than I did One Piece, and I have a Bleach video now, which I didn't get the chance to... I only released it that day instead of the day after because of what Mathwiz says in the last Kinnikuman.
You only released it to prove me wrong.
It was funnier that way. But anyway, so yeah,
true.
thank you for listening, and we will see we will see you next time.